So, hey everybody, got to do a 3-minute thought, which might be difficult for me. I struggle to keep things to 3 minutes, on can praying in faith or praying Psalm 91 over yourself protect you from the COVID virus? Well, to answer this, we really ought to know how prayer works, and to be honest, this isn't something that God has explained the inner workings of to us. He's instructed us to pray for our everyday needs, and that includes protection from sickness. And the Bible has encouraged us to pray together, but we don't know loads more than that. What if we were to round up lots of people to all pray for the same thing? Is God more likely to answer such a prayer? If we pray for something repeatedly, is God more likely to hear us than if we only pray for it once? Does the level of faith we have impact on the effectiveness of our prayers? What about sin? How much of a hindrance is that on the prayer's effectiveness? You see, the Bible gives us hints about all these things, but what it never does is set out a mathematical formula whereby you can work out, let's say, if you get a set number of righteous men and women and you work out what their level of faith is, and is that stronger than the number of sins that they're committing at the minute, can you get over the line, as it were, to force God to have to answer your prayer because you've done all the right things? Prayer's not meant to work that way. There isn't a special set of words or particular rituals or any kind of formula that is going to make God answer your prayers. It's meant to be a dialogue with God, not something you can use to twist God's arm and make him respond to your desires. The Bible, though, does tell us to pray, and it tells us that the prayer of a righteous man is powerful and effective. The Bible tells us also to pray for the recovery of our sick and to expect God to act. The Bible tells us to have faith in God's willingness to intervene in human history and to change the course of our lives. But the Bible also says that God answers prayers according to his will, and there are many instances where people pray for the things that are not part of his will and he doesn't answer them. King David was a man after God's own heart, and he fasted and he prayed fervently for days for God not to take the life of his son. But God still called him home to heaven. For each of us, the Bible tells us that every one of our days has been preordained by God. There is a day when he will call us home, and he's known exactly when that day will be since before the foundation of the world. So why pray, if that day's already been determined? Because I believe that God's determinations take into account human actions. You have to remember that God is outside of time. He doesn't perceive it in the same way we do. He's told us to pray for the recovery of our sick, and how we do this impacts on the decisions that he's already made. I don't know exactly how. He hasn't given us a formula. But if he's told us to pray, then we ought to pray. We ought to remember, however, that we're not praying to a genie who we can use a magic formula or the right rituals or the right words on to force him to respond to our wishes. We're making supplications before the throne of the sovereign God of the universe, and in praying, we're playing our part in carrying out his will.